Ladies and gentlemen, from The Martian, please welcome Kate Mara!
Every visual artist dreams of working on a project of epic scope, led by someone with real vision. And there are few directors with a track record as epic as Ridley Scott. In a field not known for its longevity, Ridley Scott's career has now spanned 5 successful decades. We all know his work: Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, Black Hawk Down, Gladiator, Prometheus, and most recently, The Martian. That's not bad, Ridley. A visual stylist whose meticulous attention to scenic detail makes all of his work completely immersive. Ridley gives visual artists who work with him an opportunity to work at the top of their game. Ridley credits his ability to handle any challenge with the training he got from shooting over 2,000 commercials, including Apple's groundbreaking 1984. Film, TV, commercials, he's really done it all. Anyone who has seen or worked on any of his movies knows he is absolutely fearless. And I've come to realize there's really only one explanation for this kind of talent. I'm pretty sure Ridley Scott is an android. If you don't believe me, well, take a look at his work and judge for yourself. A true master and Knight of the Order of the British Empire, it's my absolute honor to present Sir Ridley Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There's 5 cards. I hope you're not going to fall asleep. You can run that if you get bored. That kind of summed a lot of it up. I think that everything was there. But, first of all, thank you for this wonderful honor. And thank you for this award, and thank you for that, what you just did. Alien, I'll see if I can see it. Alien was the first, I'm going to read it, fuck it. Alien was the first I got involved with visual effects, which included a little matte painting, and all the universe is done with skilled hand and a bristle brush, randomly sprinkling stars onto black color boards. Seriously. Then we just photographed it. There was a very good model, which the movement was a counter-moving camera, because I was the operator, so I know, and lots of smoke and wind, and a little help from a visual effects cameraman, Denny Ailing, who was charming. And pause it there, I'm going to stop. I was going to, in the mornings, we'd watch rushes, and Denny would hide in the back of the theater, in this little room where we were doing the visual effects and looking at rushes, and he would come in and say, "You're going to like it." Not a lot, but you're going to like it. God bless Denny. Then Blade Runner came right after that, which did involve complex shooting on a VistaVision camera, giving me 65mm images, because it goes through that way, and those who've forgotten, okay, 65mm, to allow Doug Trumbull and David Dreyer and Richard Urzich, and actually Matt Urzich, who painted matte paintings, to do many passes on unexposed parts of a negative. The opening shot took 17 passes and windbacks. And Doug, each morning, I'd stand by the seismograph, and Doug would say, "Fuck, we had a tremor in the night." And on this occasion, we got to pass 16. We had to scrap it and start all over again. Are you bored? Sid Mead is here tonight, and we couldn't afford sets because I think we were budgeted at the time for one film was in my head and the budget was in another space, which I think is why I vaguely fell out with the producers. But by the time I came here, I was already done 1,800 commercials, done Alien, I'd done Duelists, pretty good film, and I knew it was going to wobble, but I had to do it because I thought we had a wonderful screenplay, a great opportunity, and to do the sets, Sid and I and Larry Paul. I hope Larry is here. I hope he is. Larry Paul. We walked around the Warner's backlot because we'd been to Hong Kong. I couldn't afford it, so we walked around. We photographed flat on all the sets. Was it Warner's or Universal? Warner's. And upon which he painted, and I'm a painter, so I watched with this beautiful hand painting in gouache on top of the photographs. There began the actual idea of retro architecture. And you might know that Richard Rogers, the architect, said to me 2 years afterwards, he said, would you mind coming around to the office for a drink? Because you need to know I run Blade Runner every night because it's changed our life in terms of perception of architecture and the way it would go. And then I think he'd do the Bank of Hong Kong. So it shows how film, I think, does influence things if we take things really seriously. I take things very seriously. Having seen what I saw tonight, you guys take things really seriously. You save our asses frequently, let me tell you. Then Legend came with, are you getting bored? I'm all right? Still. Then Legend came with the Bond stage filled from end to end with 20 tons of dirt, hogging, and a massive fake trees in polystyrene. Of course, it didn't look big enough. It never does for me. I always stand there and say it looks small, okay? The solution was to make 40 frames in steel, which were 8 feet wide and 45 feet high, which would hang from a rail around the gantry in Pinewood Studios, because in my brilliance I'd worked out when I look at the stage it runs out of space, but run the mirror behind it, Christ almighty, I see eternity. And we did that, and by God it worked. And so we have that forest in there with mirrors rather than special effects. The downside was that the pigeons who had been released over the previous weeks filming, and deer and would sit in the tree and somehow wait for me to say action, then they'd all take off. And they would actually fly into this infinite forest, and I'd say, it's great, and then the pigeon would hit the mirror and it would go, bang, and pigeon would fall on the ground. I'm serious. And I've been told to add this because I know you guys are softies. Fortunately, there were no casualties. There was only a lot of dazed and confused pigeons with big headaches. Right. Okay. Oh, this is a nice one as well. Are you interested in hearing this stuff? Because the rock in the forest was built to a maximum height of 30 feet. Didn't look big enough. So, or dangerous enough. So I had Tom Cruise standing there. You know, Tom's a bit shorter than I am, actually. And I said, we got to make it larger, Tom. You go home, we'll work it out. On the Monday, I brought in my 7-year-old daughter, had made up a quick, cheap dress, and I put on a line because I did not want her falling off a 30-foot rock. And I had a stuntman lying in the grass. I said, you don't let her fall, do the last thing you'll ever do. And I had a 10-year-old high-diving, bit of a genius, Olympic dive, but he's short. And he did the dive, and guess what? Lateral thinking gets you a long way, or vertical thinking, whatever you want to call it. The rock suddenly looks 60 feet. Duh. Okay. Then would be Gladiator. Because in between, I've done lots of movies, and funny enough, in Black Hawk, there are no visual effects. It was all in the moment. I think I nearly killed 4 units and 16 actors, but Gladiator would be the first real big encounter with the digital effects world. Because I was vaguely suspicious of that, because it felt too much like magic to me, and I didn't really understand it. And I need to understand everything when I'm going to do it. At that time, I was a partner in a company called The Mill, and with their team, there was Tim Burke, Rob Harvey, as well as John Nelson, Neil Corbett, Floor Effects, and they all got an Oscar that year. And that's when I was completely transposed to, because I'd built the the Colosseum, 38% of the Colosseum, actual size, one tier short. Arthur and I had done this. And they were going to come out of the hole in the ground. And I said, I want them to come out like a football team, like Manchester United. Come out, I want to circle right around. I'm going to go 360 and come back on them, right on Russell's close-up face. And I remember them blanching. I said, can you do it? And they said, I can. So I then watched the evolution of the cage drawing. I approved of the speed, approved of the movement, gradually then the shading, then the aging, and then the crowds. I was absolutely blown away. From that moment on, I figured that anything is possible. I'd had experiences on commercials, but never like this, and I watched and listened and learned them, admiring the ingenuity of their artistic science. Artistic science, you call it, because people call mathematics and science, it's a division from art, but it's not. Mathematics and science are art. They just haven't dawned on them yet, okay? Now I entered the stage of really planning. I realized that anything can be done, providing you use it properly, like the fine details of brain surgery in Hannibal. I always remember my lawyer saying, you can't do a film where you cut the guy's head off on the top, cook his brains and feed it to him. I said, it's funny. I said, that's funny? But it turned out to be quite amusing because of Anthony Hopkins and Ray Liotta having his brains fed to himself. I did a marvelous job, and Julianne Moore, sorry. Then came Jerusalem. I'm getting there, nearly there. Then came Jerusalem with Richard Stamets and his team, gave me 170,000 troops and 42 war machines, and then on to Robin Hood, King's John's Landing and the Norman landing on the beaches of Wales. And did the Normans have landing craft in those days? Of course they did. How on earth did they get the horses onto the beach? Okay, so I always figured you've got to have some form of landing craft. So they were made up, and we shot on the sea coming in onto that Welsh beach. Formidable reenactment of 1066, and the bad guy got an arrow through his eye, Mark Strong. It wasn't King Harold, but who gives a damn? He just looked great, okay? Prometheus, getting there. Prometheus was really first long-range planning to carry out ambitious events in other universes. If you're off target, you're going to die. You're not going to survive. Anything that's fragile doesn't really work. The story collapses. So between NPC, Weta, and Fuel, I engaged and marveled at the artistic skill, set, the pace and importance of digital animation. I lost my place, sorry. Animation early brought on to help guide this story. Exodus, Egypt, gods, biblical storms, not to mention the parting of the sea, thanks to Peter Chang and Double Negative Company. That's pretty tough stuff. And now, recently, Martian wasn't a fantasy, but a reality. We all had to reinforce NASA and JPL and science and present-day technology, but Mars had to be majestic, mysterious, without being too fantasy. Couldn't be fantasy. It's got to be, that's the monster in the film. There's no bad guy in the movie. The monster in the film is Mars. It'll kill you in a heartbeat when you step out that door. You'll go down in 15 seconds. Thanks again to Richard Stamets, Matt Sloan, and NPC. I'm shooting in 8 weeks on an Alien Covenant. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and I can't wait to get at it. But my hat comes off to all you guys and gals with all your passion, and I really mean the passion, I can feel it in the room, and genius and evolving ideas everything must be real in what you do. I love the process, working with you all wherever you are.